It was a chilly Tuesday morning when Tasha, a 28-year-old waitress, opened the door to the small café she had been working at for some time in the heart of the city. It was small, out of the way of the busy streets, with the sweet smell of freshly brewed coffee in the air. Tasha liked the simplicity of her life. She knew and greeted familiar faces every day, serving them warm cups of coffee with a smile. It was not a glamorous job, but it gave her a sense of purpose, and that was enough. Tasha's routine was as predictable as one could get. Wake up early, rush to work, serve her customers, and then head home to relax before doing it all over again. She didn't mind the repetition. It gave her peace. But life, as it always does, has a way of throwing the unexpected at us when we least expect it. It was just after noon, and the bell above the door jingled, indicating the arrival of a customer. Tasha looked up from wiping the counter, same as always, but it was what was standing there in the doorway that stopped her dead in her tracks. And then there was Elon Musk, the mogul of tech, the billionaire, the man known for space, electric cars, and now artificial intelligence, just right in front of me. His presence was unmistakable. Black jeans and jacket, out of place in this quaint cafe. He almost looked like he had entered the wrong building. Tasha stood as still as a statue for a moment, hardly believing her eyes. Of course she knew of him. Who didn't? But she just never had occasion to think this type of man would walk into her small cafe. Still, she composed herself and smiled, heading over to the table he had taken by the window. "Good afternoon, Mr. Musk. What can I get for you today?" she asked politely. Elon looked up from his phone, glancing around as though he was trying to get his bearings. His eyes met Tasha's, and he smiled faintly. "Just a coffee, black, thanks," he replied in a calm voice. Tasha nodded, making her way to the counter to prepare his order. As she did, she couldn't help but feel a little starstruck. It wasn't every day that a billionaire walked into your cafe, but she reminded herself that she was just here to do her job, serve him the coffee and move on. No big deal. Moments later, she returned to his table with the coffee. "Here you go," she said with a smile. Elon glanced up, his eyes narrowing slightly. Before he could speak, the door to the cafe swung open once again, and a group of loud, boisterous men walked in. They didn't look like the typical cafe crowd. Their laughter echoed through the small space, and their demeanor was dismissive, almost confrontational. One of the men, clearly tipsy, approached Elon's table. "Well, well, if it isn't the great Elon Musk," he sneered. "What are you doing in a place like this? Don't tell me you're slumming it with the little people now?" Tasha, who had been at the counter, overheard the interaction and felt a sinking feeling in her stomach. She knew that kind of behavior all too well. The man was mocking Elon, trying to belittle him in front of others. But what happened next was not something Tasha expected. Without hesitation, Elon looked the man in the eye, his voice calm but firm. "I'm just enjoying a cup of coffee. You should try it sometime." The man wasn't satisfied with the response. He leaned in closer, his words dripping with arrogance. "I bet you think you're better than everyone here, don't you? Maybe you should take your money and go back to your mansion." Tasha could feel the tension in the air, her own hands trembling as she watched the exchange. It wasn't right. She couldn't just stand there and let someone talk to Elon like that, especially when it was so clearly unprovoked. With a deep breath, Tasha walked over to the table. "Hey, that's enough," she said firmly, looking the man straight in the eyes. "You're being rude, and it's not okay." The man looked taken aback. No one had ever spoken to him like that before. His friends snickered, but he didn't back down. "And what are you going to do about it, waitress?" he challenged. Tasha stood her ground. "I'm going to tell you to leave, that's what. You don't get to treat people like that, no matter who they are." Elon, who had been quiet throughout the exchange, watched Tasha with a mixture of surprise and admiration. He wasn't used to seeing people stand up for him in such a public way, especially not someone in a job where standing up could easily lead to consequences. The man grumbled something under his breath before turning on his heel and storming out, his friends following behind him. The cafe went quiet again, the tension lifting. Tasha, feeling a rush of adrenaline, turned back to Elon's table. "I'm sorry about that," she said, trying to offer a reassuring smile. "Some people just don't know how to act." Elon looked up at her, his expression thoughtful. "No, thank you. That was unexpected. But I appreciate you standing up for me." Tasha waved it off, her cheeks flushing slightly. "It's just my job. I'm just doing what's right." She moved to clean the other tables, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. She didn't know why, but she could sense that this moment, this act of kindness, was going to change her life. What happened next, however, was nothing short of extraordinary. Later that afternoon, as Tasha was finishing up her shift, her manager approached her with a stern look on his face. "Tasha, can I talk to you for a minute?" he asked. She followed him to the back of the cafe, her heart sinking. "What's going on?" "I'm afraid I have to let you go," he said, his voice cold. "You can't just confront customers like that. You've made things uncomfortable, and we can't have that." Tasha's stomach dropped. She had always done her best to be polite and professional, but she had never imagined her attempt to stand up for someone would cost her the job. She tried to explain, but her manager was adamant. As she walked out of the cafe, her mind raced. She felt defeated, humiliated. She had stood up for what was right, only to lose the very thing she had worked so hard for. She wasn't sure what to do next. All she knew was that she needed a change, a new direction, something to get her out of this rut. What Tasha didn't know, however, was that Elon Musk had been watching the entire interaction. As she walked down the street, trying to hold back the tears, she heard a familiar voice calling her name. "Tasha!" She turned around, startled to see Elon approaching her. "Mr. Musk?" she asked, wide-eyed. "Are you okay?" he asked, his tone genuine. Tasha nodded, but her heart was heavy. "I just lost my job because I stood up for you." Elon's face softened with concern. "I'm sorry to hear that," he said. "But I think you should know something." Tasha looked at him, confused. "I'm not just some random person," Elon continued. "I noticed what you did today, and I don't think anyone should be punished for doing the right thing. You stood up for me when no one else would. That matters." Tasha was speechless. "I didn't do it for praise. I just let him talk to you like that." Elon nodded. "Exactly. And that's why I'm going to make sure you're taken care of. You're not going to walk away from this empty-handed." With a flick of his wrist, Elon made a few calls. Within hours, Tasha was offered a new job, a better paying one at that. But that wasn't all. Elon had also arranged for her to receive a generous severance package from her old job, ensuring she was financially stable as she transitioned into her new role. But the surprises didn't stop there. A few weeks later, Tasha received an invitation to an exclusive event, a gathering of innovators, entrepreneurs, and world changers. As she entered the venue, she found herself face to face with Elon once again. "Welcome, Tasha," he greeted her with a warm smile. "I'm glad you're here." Over the course of the evening, Tasha found herself engaging in conversations with some of the most influential people in the world, people who were making waves in technology, business, and social change. Elon had personally ensured she was given a seat at the table, not just as a guest, but as someone who had earned her place there through her kindness, loyalty, and courage. By the end of the night, Tasha found herself in a new world, one where her actions had opened doors she never thought possible. What started as a simple act of standing up for someone in a cafe had snowballed into an extraordinary new life, one full of opportunities, mentorship, and a future she had never imagined. As she looked around the room, she couldn't help but smile. She had gone from losing her job to gaining so much more than she could have ever dreamed. In that moment, Tasha realized that sometimes standing up for what's right doesn't just change the world, it can change your life too. And thanks to a surprising twist of fate and a kind act from Elon Musk, Tasha's life was no longer the predictable routine it once was. It was now a journey filled with endless possibilities. If you enjoyed the story and found it meaningful, don't forget to leave a like. It really helps us reach more people. We'd also love to hear from you. Share your thoughts and the lessons you've learned in the comments below. Your insights could inspire someone else.